Hi everyone, my name is JT Pilot and today we'll be making another video. This time we'll be doing a random airport day of my Kansas City International Airport. And this is the 8th random airport day. This is for May of 2024. And this will be a special update for the upcoming Airliners International event for 2024. And I won't be going to that event though, but I know a lot of my followers will be going to that event. So it's great to have a random airport day of the airport where the event will be taking place, so at least taking place nearby. So yes, in today's airport day we'll be covering the airport that serves Kansas City, Missouri. So we'll be covering the brand new terminal. So a new terminal did open up last year, so that's really exciting. So yes, so we'll be covering the new terminal in a few sections. We'll be starting off the eastern half, then we'll proceed on to the western half, which will be over there, which has most of the main operations over at Kansas City. And then we'll be proceeding on some cargo operations of cargo aircraft I do indeed have in my collection, because I never really get to cover cargo aircraft in the airport dates, but at least Kansas City does get cargo models cargo aircraft I do have models of, so that's really exciting. So yes, so nonetheless, let's get started off with the eastern half of the main terminal. So yes, and basically how Kansas City is laid out, they do have new terminals. So there's an eastern half, and then the western half, and then the old terminals are over here. They're big circle terminals that were pretty outdated, and I know a lot of travelers did not like them. So the Kansas City Airport Authority decided to build a new terminal, and all the airlines have moved over there. So that's really exciting. And yeah, it's basically all I gotta say about the layout of the airport. So let's get started off with the aircraft themselves, and we'll be starting off with the airlines. So Kansas City does have all the major U.S. airlines, and yeah, they do have one international airline that does operate some seasonal services, so that's really exciting. So let's get started off with the eastern half of the main terminal. So starting with our first aircraft here, the lovely Frontier Airlines Airbus A321neo. And you chopper the great white shark tail. So this aircraft did pay a visit recently to Kansas City, so yeah, grateful to include this model. So this aircraft has arrived in from Denver as Frontier Flight 94 and be continuing on to Cancun. So Frontier does have a fairly small presence over at Kansas City, but they do have an international service. That's really cool. So great to include the Cancun route. So yeah, moving on to our next aircraft here, the Legion Airbus A320-200 with Sharklets. So Legion does serve Kansas City with a few routes, and this aircraft will be doing a seasonal service out to St. Petersburg as the Legion Flight 2656. And proceeding on to our next aircraft here, the JetBlue Airbus A220-300. So this will be the final time we'll be seeing a JetBlue model over at Kansas City International Airport on a realistic YouTube channel update. Just because JetBlue will be ending their service to Kansas City in June. So yeah, it's one of the last times you'll see a JetBlue aircraft in anybody's Kansas City model airport dates that take place in real life. So yeah, so I'm grateful to include the JetBlue aircraft for one last time over at Kansas City. So this JetBlue Airbus A220-300 will be heading out to New York John Kennedy as JetBlue Flight 2222. And alright, so proceeding on to our next airline, which is the Alaska Airlines. So they do serve Kansas City twice daily on 747. So that's really exciting. Grateful to include Alaska in a random airport day. We haven't featured them in quite a bit on this series. So this Alaska Boeing 747-900 a year will be doing the morning service out to Seattle, Tacoma as Alaska Flight 563. And all the routes on today's airport day besides one route is based off of Thursday, May 9th, 2024. So once again, this aircraft will be heading out to Seattle, Tacoma. And then proceeding on to American Airlines. So they do have a pretty good presence. Let's increase the brightness a little bit. They do have a pretty good presence over at Kansas City, so that's really exciting. They do have a few cool routes. So starting off with first aircraft here, the American Eagle Embraer J175. This aircraft will be operating on behalf of Republic Airways, and it will be heading out to Washington, D.C. as Republic Flight 461. Then proceeding on to our next aircraft. There we go. Move it up a little bit. Here we have the American 747-800, this lovely NG model. And this aircraft will be heading out to Phoenix as American Flight 2005. So they do have a wide variety of services over here, so that's really exciting. And then moving on to our next American aircraft here, the American Airbus A319, who'll be heading out to Philadelphia as American Flight 972. Then proceeding on to our next aircraft here, the lovely American 747-MAX 8. So grateful to include one of these guys in a random airport day. This aircraft will be heading out to Miami as American Flight 1255. Proceeding to some taxiing aircraft between the terminals. Here the American Airbus A321-200. This aircraft will be heading out to Charlotte as American Flight 1354. And this flight was without the sharklets. It was a fin stip configuration, but I do not have one an American fin stip A321 yet, so I'll have to purchase one. May have to compensate and get the Air Classics version, even though I don't really want to, but it might have to be a necessary addition to the collection, or the 2018 Gemini that's released. So pick your poison with that model, I guess. So yeah, so this American A321 will be heading out to Charlotte. Then proceeding on to another taxi aircraft here, the Air Canada Express CRJ-900 will be operating a summer seasonal service out to Toronto Pearson today. This is a Jazz Aviation flight, so they're good. They have not started their services yet, but I did want to include them at Kansas City because they're the only international airline, so that's really exciting to see. And alright, so proceeding on to the west side of the main terminal. So we'll be starting off with the Spirit Airlines section. They do have a few gates over at Kansas City today, but the vast majority of the aircraft in this section of the airport day will be Southwest and Delta aircraft. So this first aircraft is Spirit A320 with the fin tips. We'll be heading out to Orlando as Spirit Flight 1711. So proceeding on to some Southwest aircraft, we have a ton in today's airport day, and they wrap all around the terminals. So yes, Southwest does not have a focus city out of Kansas City, but they do have lots of routes. So starting off with first aircraft here, the Southwest 737-700 with the blended winglets as a Panda models release in the Heart livery. And yes, most of the Southwest aircraft in today's airport they are in the Heart livery. They didn't really send too many special liveries in today, so I want to keep that realistic in today's airport updates. So this Southwest 737-700 has arrived in from Tampa as Southwest Flight 5765, be heading out to Albuquerque as Southwest Flight 142. Proceeding on to our next aircraft here, the Southwest 737-700 with split skimmer winglets, the second Panda model split skimmer release. This aircraft has arrived in from Baltimore as Southwest Flight 801 and will be heading out to Milwaukee as Southwest Flight 3309. So lots of cool routes. Proceeding on to our first MAX 8 in today's airport day Proceeding on to our first 747 MAX 8 in today's airport day. So this 747 MAX 8 has arrived in from Denver as Southwest Flight 5310. We'll be heading out to Las Vegas as Southwest Flight 2443. Proceeding on to our next Southwest aircraft here, another Southwest 747 MAX 8, this time the NG miles version. And this aircraft has arrived in from Phoenix as Southwest Flight 1261. Be heading out to Minneapolis, St. Paul as Southwest Flight 6155. So a lot of non-hub Southwest destinations, so that's pretty exciting to see. Proceeding to another Southwest 747-700. This time, the Southwest 747-700 has arrived in from St. Louis as Southwest Flight 5795. We'll be heading out to Chicago Midway as Southwest Flight 5424. So grateful to have all these different Heart livery Southwest aircraft in my collection with all different registrations, so to make this airport day even more realistic. And yes, there's no duplicate Southwest miles in today's airport day. Moving on to our next aircraft here is Southwest 737-800, and this aircraft has arrived in from Houston Hobby at Southwest Flight 454 and be heading out to Cancun today at Southwest Flight 751. So really cool to have a Southwest international destination over at Kansas City. And proceeding on to another Southwest 747-700 in the Heart livery. They do send a ton of these into Kansas City. This time, this aircraft has arrived in from Washington, DCA at Southwest Flight 2830. Be heading out to Dallas Love Field at Southwest Flight 4383. And alright, so proceeding on to some more Southwest aircraft. We got another 4 in today's airport day. So moving on to our next aircraft here, another Southwest 747-700 in the Heart livery. This time, this aircraft will be heading out to Oakland today at Southwest Flight 5401 after arriving in from New York LaGuardia at Southwest Flight 5728. Proceeding on to our next aircraft here, the Southwest 747-800 in the Heart livery with the split skimmer winglets. This aircraft has also arrived in from Cancun at Southwest Flight 750 and be heading out to Long Beach at Southwest Flight 6199. Just pushing back here, the Southwest 747-MAX 8. And this MAX 8 will be heading out to Austin, Texas at Southwest Flight 429 after arriving in from Austin. And proceeding on to our final Southwest aircraft in today's video, and we'll be saving the best for last, as this is our special livery Southwest 747. Let me turn the brightness down. There you go. Here's the Southwest 747-800 in the Tennessee 1 livery. And this aircraft will be heading out to Orlando at Southwest Flight 5081. So that is it for the Southwest Airlines. All right, so proceeding on to Delta Airlines, they do have a pretty sizable presence over at Kansas City, so that's great to see. So our first Delta aircraft is Delta 717, so always great to have the 717 in airport dates. This aircraft will be heading out to Minneapolis, St. Paul as Delta Flight 2947. Proceeding on to our next aircraft here, the mighty Delta Connection, Embraer J175. So grateful to finally include this in a random airport update. And this Delta E175 will be heading out to Boston as Delta Flight 5768. And this is a Republic Airways flight. Proceeding on to our next aircraft here, the Delta 747-900ER. This aircraft has just arrived, has just arrived in from Detroit and be making a return flight out there as Delta Flight 2143. Proceeding to our next Delta aircraft here, the Delta Connection CRJ-900. And this aircraft will be heading out to New York LaGuardia as Delta Flight 4900. Proceeding, and that was an Endeavor Airways flight. Proceeding on to our next aircraft here, the lovely Delta Airlines Boeing 757-200 and the Maria Rivera titles. This will be operating for a Gen 2 configured 757 as this aircraft is a Gen 1 757. And this aircraft will be heading out to Atlanta as Delta Flight 2471. So Delta Airlines does send the 757 on this route as well as the 737-800 and the 900. So yes, but I just had to include the Flying Pencil, and I will be soon getting a Gen 2 757. So that's great. That's going to be great to have in the random airport days to make that the Delta 757 routes a little bit more realistic. And proceeding on to our final Delta aircraft in today's video, here are the Delta 747-800 with the blended winglets, and this aircraft will be heading out to Salt Lake City as Delta Flight 1499. And alrighty, so moving on to United Airlines, they do have a pretty small presence over at Kansas City, but they do have some interesting routes. So starting off with the first aircraft, here will be United 747-800. This aircraft will be heading out to Chicago O'Hare as United Flight 2133, and United does send several 747s on this route several times per day, including the Dash 800, the Dash 700, so that's really exciting to see. So grateful to have a Chicago O'Hare service over at this airport. And moving on to our next aircraft here, the United Airbus A319-100, an absolute workhorse in the collection for these random airports. They send these aircraft everywhere. So this United Airbus A319 will be heading out to Newark as United Flight 1496. I may be going to Newark soon, so yeah, may get to see that route in real life in the coming months. So I don't know, we'll have to see. Moving on to our next aircraft, United Express, Embraer J175, and he'll be heading out to San Francisco as United Flight 4671, and this is a Mesa Airlines flight, so always great to have a West Coast regional flight in the airport updates. That's a first for the random airport series besides the San Diego model airport, so that's really cool to see. And moving on to our next aircraft here, the United 747-900ER. This aircraft will be heading out to Denver as United Flight 1285, and just like the O'Hare route, this route does see a variety of aircraft, including the 747-800s, the 900s, and some A320 aircraft, and I believe some regional aircraft here and there. And proceeding on proceeding to our final aircraft in today's airport update in the passenger section, at least here with the Sun Country 747-800. Yes, this aircraft has been doing a lot of charter flights over at Kansas recently, and they're so interesting I have to include them in the airport updates. I know this aircraft is supposed to park at the Everest section, but I just discovered this flight last minute, so this Sun Country 747-800 will be heading out to Bullhead City, California as Sun Country Flight 8237, so interesting charter route there. It's an interesting destination overall, and yeah, so that is it for the passenger section of this airport day. Let's move on to some cargo aircraft. And alright, so proceeding on to the cargo airlines section. This is the final section in today's airport date, so Kansas City does have a few cargo terminals, so they have 3 or 4 cargo terminals, and yes, all the cargo airlines do operate out of separate terminals. So, yes, since I don't have too many cargo models in my collection, we're just going to be including them all into one terminal area. And Kansas City does have a few cargo airlines, including Prime Air, FedEx, UPS, DHL, and Atlas Air. So, yes, so they do occupy this section. Yeah, so they do occupy the cargo section, of course, in separate terminals. So, I believe UPS and FedEx do have their own terminals, and then Prime Air does have a common use terminal, I do believe. So, starting off with first aircraft here with Prime Air, or Amazon Air, 747-800 BCF. He has arrived in from Lakeland, Florida, as Sun Country Flight 3038. He'll be heading out to San Bernardino in California, as Sun Country Flight 3035. So, Sun Country Airlines does operate these flights, so hence the Sun Country flight number. So, there you go. So that's a pretty cool fact there. So, yeah. And moving on to our next aircraft here. Here we have a FedEx Express, Boeing 767-300F. This aircraft will be heading out to Indianapolis as FedEx Flight 1613. So, FedEx does use a variety of aircraft to Kansas City, including the 767s and the 757s. So they're going to, I believe, the A300s as well. But I do not have a 757 or an A300 in my collection from FedEx, so we'll just be using the 767. And this aircraft doesn't operate their route in real life, so it would be nice to get more cargo aircraft. Gemini will probably do some more because they love releasing them. And proceeding on to our final aircraft in today's airport update, it is the UPS 757-200F. This aircraft will be heading out to Chicago Rockford today as UPS Flight 673, so great reference to AS Aviation. So that is it for today's airport update. So I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching this Kansas City model airport update. I'm really glad I was able to do this airport day just in time for Airliners International 2024. So at least this airport day will be out a couple of weeks before then. So if anybody's traveling to this airport in real life, there's a model airport update to represent that. So yeah, so that's it for today's video. And there's the previous airline terminal there. So, or not the previous, but here's the passenger terminal there. So we previously gone over. But yeah, that's it for today's video. So yeah, I'm sorry my voice is a little congested. I do have a little cold right now, so just ignore that. This video was recorded across a few days. It's been a really busy week for me, so that's why that has occurred. So if my voice has changed throughout the video, that's probably why. So so Kansas City is a developing airport. I cannot wait to see the future of this wonderful airport in the United States. I'm grateful that include my first airport update in Missouri. Hint, I will be doing another one this summer. Another random airport update. I will be covering another airport in Missouri, so it's a pretty large one. So it's been a requested random airport, and you'll be seeing that sometime this summer. So yes, so that is it for this video. I'm JT Pod, and I'd like to thank you all so much for watching this video, and have a wonderful day. Bye.